Dave here, and so I know I've been kind of slacking this week. I've had a lot going on. My friends know what's been going on. So, but other than that, it's time to get cranking. I ended up having to work today on a Saturday. Boo. So actually, as you can see behind me, I actually got the Perfect Grade Strike Freedom finished, snapped up. I think I'm going to. It's just going to be a long project for everything that I want to do with it, and just something just to kind of sit and fiddle with over the winter time. I got the white Zaku built up. I'm going to try and do that and have that finished for the PlaymoCon contest that they're having over there. Enter that in there. Definitely go check them out. If you've got something that you're working on or you've worked on, enter it in over there. It really helps out. It's actually being judged by Bandai. Some great prizes. If we can get it big enough this year, the prizes and everything will be bigger that are being provided by Bandai for next year. So, and I believe that contest is for North America. Check the rules and everything on that. If you're part of my Facebook friends and everything, we started a new little group over there. It is invite only. So check with your friends, see if they're part of the group. They can invite you or look me up. It's called the Gundam Corner, Gudamn Corner. But what this is it's the start of me actually working on and getting everything cleaned up for the RX-93V. And so let's get to that. This is going, right now I have it broken down into segments, and I'm probably going to do some slower stuff, but most of it's just going to be speed, me sanding, cleaning up, just the monotonous crap that goes along with that. But just so you guys can see, I was waiting for a big order that I placed for the Kshatriya that I'm working on for magnets and things on that. I got part of that order, and I'm waiting for the rest of it to come in. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be a blast and a monster. Part of what I've been doing is trying to clear off my shelves and everything. And that's one of the reasons I mentioned my the Facebook group, is I'm going to start placing up some of my PVCs and things on there, and I'm probably going to place some of them up on the Mecha Lounge, so check over there too, and just to clear off some space. I'm keeping my definite favorites, and I'm going to be placing up some of my resin figures. Not so much my Gundam stuff, but just the figures, and I do have a lot of cool stuff, some Volks and things like that. So stay tuned, and we'll be popping in and out. Peace. Okay guys, so here we are. One of the things I like doing first is actually laying out and separating all my parts, be it right arm, left arm, legs, torso, head. That way parts don't end up getting mixed up. I'm going through the instruction booklet, figuring out what goes where, kind of going over it, you know, just getting a feel for it. Once you have everything laid out, some of the basic tools that I end up using are just the regular, they're regular like nail files. You can pick up at beauty supplies. You can probably pick up at like Walmart, things like that, but beauty supplies are going to have the best quality. So what I have here is a 120 and 240 grit, but this side is used, I use primarily for the rougher stuff. But keep in mind, as you use these, like this end, it's probably down to like an 800 grit by now. So as you use them over time, it loses some of its thing, but that works out to your benefit later on, because then it's a finer grit. So these are the basics that I use for this, and then of course I have you know, as I've given some of you guys as prizes, things like that, my sanding buffer pads. I I've got a medium fine, I've got a fine here, and then I've got the buffer and the polisher. Doesn't really matter what kind of hobby knife. I actually have a ton of these. I like them because they're really sharp, and the back side works really well for removing seam lines. So these are just the tester ones. I do have like 3 or 4 actual good ones, like you know, like this, with different blades that go in there. You know, it's one of those things, appropriate tool for the job and what you're comfortable with. Now, one of the things I was actually really surprised at is I picked up off of Amazon really cheap a Tamiya file set, and when I got it, I was really disappointed because I was like, what am I going to be, see if it'll focus it, what am I going to be sanding or, you know, filing that is so rough? But after using it a few times, this thing's a godsend because it just wipes out things like on here, which is going to end up being cut off. And then I have several different different rasps, files, things like that, different shapes, different patterns in there for finer. I've even got this is a Tamiya diamond file, and it's used primarily, and it's supposed to be for photo etch parts, but it works really good on the plastic Bandai kits for just getting a smooth if you're just trying to work that down. And one of my tools that I love is my G-Temple panel line scriber. And yeah, I do have a Tamiya one, and I think I have a couple others around, but this is actually one of my favorites. You know, I've got the different blades that come with it, so I can pretty much, it goes all the way up to 2 millimeters, so I can pretty much do any size for cleaning out in here. You know, actual Bandai kits, you don't have to worry about that so much, but with resin kits, there's always little blebs and things like that that are in here. So with all that to the side, and another tool that I keep around is, of course, I mentioned before, my metal ruler, which comes in handy. It even comes in handy when you're trying to clean off flash. Now, one of the things that was brought up, and I do have to apologize, is not mentioning who the sculptor, the original sculptor, is on this. And I know there are issues, and I'm hoping that this doesn't affect anything, but the Silphid team, you know, has done fantastic work. You know, from seeing my Neograde Sosby that I am still currently working on, you know, it's just fantastic workmanship and everything. So props to them on the design and everything of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start cleaning up, and I don't know, like I said, I'm probably going to fast forward through a lot of this, just clean up parts, show you what it looks like cleaned up, maybe what it looked like before and then after it's cleaned up. I haven't really thought about that. I don't know how long I want to do the videos. This is a bulky thing, so if I were to just to stream it even at double or quad speed, it would still be a really long video. So we're going to do this in segments, and I'll be back. Okay guys, so what we're going to do first is we're going to start trimming some of the flash and the pour marks off. And I forgot to mention in tools, my nippers. I have 2 of them. I have this one, which is my newer one, and I don't really use it that much for this. I have my older one. If you guys remember, I screwed up because I let a friend borrow it, and he screwed up the blade, and I ended up actually taking a file and reworking the blade. So it comes together, it's nice and smooth, and it's actually flatter on this side. But this is primarily what I use for trimming my resin pieces. So what we have on here. As you can see, this is the pour mark, and there's a little one right there. What these are for is, let's say your mold is like this. You've got it laying in there. Well, this is where you're going to pour in the resin. This is a vent out. So when you're pouring in the resin, any air bubbles and stuff that are out here are going to get pushed out this hole over here. And that's the whole purpose. That's why you'll end up seeing pieces that have maybe 2 or 3 of those on there. And it's to ensure, like this one. It's to ensure when they're pouring in, this is the pour in part. The biggest one is always going to be your pour in. And then these others are going to be the push out to get all the air bubbles out. Otherwise you end up with an ugly mess. Trust me, I've seen a few. So what I have a tendency of doing is I figure out where my part is, and I will just trim down as close as possible. I'll make a little pile over on the side. Now, if your trimmers are nice and sharp, you can pretty much get away with trimming this all the way down and not having to. It eliminates how much filing, also eliminates how much resin dust that you're going to end up having on pretty much everything, because it gets everywhere. Now normally I'll just go through and trim all these, but on this one I'm just gonna. So I've got my sanding stick here. And unfortunately, because you guys aren't here, you know, you can't quite see what everything that I'm doing on here, but I'm going over any little flaws, things like that. I will wipe out. This is where the file will come in handy, and I'm going to kind of stretched across the table so that it's in the camera view. So remember, just soft and gentle. You don't have to get overzealous with it. If you get all crazy, you can have a tendency of taking too much off, and that's a bad thing. Because that means then you just have to use resin or epoxy or something just to fill in the gaps. So I can tell that by the way that this was cast. Like I showed you before, it was cast in this way. So you had the bottom part of the mold that was down here, your top lip, which sat on top. And I can tell that because there's a little seam line that runs along there. So we're just going to get rid of that. And I know a lot of people, they will wash and then pre-prime. That way they can see everything. I'm kind of cheap. So, and I've been doing it long enough that I can spot them pretty easy. So I don't want to use twice as much primer that I have to. So let's take a bigger piece, something like this. So let's trim this off. This is going to be the last one on this, and then I'll go through and clean up the pieces, and we'll come back. Now on really cheap cheap resin, you really have to be careful. And technically, you've seen that if you saw it. This is why you should wear some kind of safety eye protection, because you will end up with little resin chunks flying here and there. You guys know me, I like living a little dangerous. Okay, so I'm going to take the rough side and like I've discussed before, normally I will have like a towel down to catch any dust, but since these are light colored and it wouldn't show up real well, so I'm doing this more for your guys' benefit so you can see. So what you can do, and what I have a tendency to do, just take your file, lay up on the piece like that, you're wanting to try and make the piece nice and even on both sides. And yeah, there will be a little clean because you can see like right in there. X-Acto knife, just like so, should clean that up. So voila on that. So we can show the matching on here. Let's get rid of this. This will actually show you guys pretty good what you're looking at here as far as mess factor. This is just from, you know, the little bit of sanding I've been doing. Okay, so with that, now you can see there's a notch in here, there's a notch out there. So they should line up, and as soon as they do, now you can see there's a little bit of gap down here and up there. Now we can go about that one of two ways. We can either try and sand down to make it even, or we can boil up some water, heat up both parts, mash them together, and they'll fit together real well. But you do want to go through, make sure that these edges are even first. That will really end up helping you in the long run. So there we have just the basic two sides of the shell of the head. Now, for further progression on cleaning, what I will do is I will grab something like this. You can tell it's well used. This is the medium fine that I end up using. You want to go over the whole thing. probably hear everything rattling on the desk because I have a tendency of I brace my arms on the edge of the desk while I'm doing this. It reduces stress and strain on the shoulders. Actually, normally when I'm doing this, I'm actually sitting back with the towel in my lap and doing it, but I'm not having you guys sit there and stare at my crotch for 20 minutes or however long this is. So you can pretty much tell just looking reflection of the light, what you've hit, or what you've hit good, what you haven't. You do want to have a towel or something. Something that works excellent is an old pair of Levi's that you've cut the legs off of, the Levi material. Just have sitting across like one of your legs. That way you can take when it gets like that, just rub it on there, you know, and you'll get out of the crevices and the pores. Alright, so we have that. Looks pretty good. Now one thing I really like about these, you can grab, squeeze, it'll give you a curvature. Alright. So there's that. Let's hit it with pad number 2, which is going to be our fine. And let's see if it'll focus in on here. Focus. So you'll see there's one kind of texture there. But if we look at this other side, it's actually a tighter texture. And all 4 sides are supposed to be the same. But the tighter the texture, the finer it's going to end up being. So you just want to make sure and get good coverage on it. Doesn't need to be absolutely perfect because we are still priming it. Okay, so we've got that one. And final stage I end up doing, you don't have to, but I do because it gives me a good idea. It only takes, you know, maybe a minute just to go over it with the buff pad. And you get a good reflection and you can actually see any flaws or imperfections that still need to be touched on. So there's that. As you can tell, compared to the front side, it's nice and smooth, no texture or anything. That's it, guys. So I think I'm going to do this video, upload it. I'm going to clean up all the pieces here. Get them ready, and I will show you guys things like magnet placement. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching and sticking with me, and I will talk to you later. Peace out.